38 Special Plus P versus 45 ACP and short barrels. And what we have today is our Federal Hydra-Shok deep ammunition. Keep in mind, this is a comparison, not a competition. I'm just comparing two popular carry options out of short barrels. And at one point in my life, I actually only had a 45 auto and a short barrel pistol and a 38 Special revolver. So it is kind of a personal test for me to kind of see what these type of cartridges will do compared to each other. So our 38 Special Plus P is a 130 grain. It is rated at 900 feet per second. I believe that's through a 4-inch barrel. And our 45 ACP is a 210 grain. We are rated at 980 feet per second. I believe that's through a 5-inch barrel. So Federal Hydra-Shok deep it's kind of like the old school Hydra-Shok where there's a post in the middle, but it's bigger than the original, and these are like banded in such a way that they're pretty much law enforcement grade ammunition. In fact, these are very comparable in a lot of ways to Hornady Critical Duty. The difference between that though and the Hydra-Shok deep is the Hydra-Shok deep also comes in like very small or pocket pistol calibers like 32 ACP, 380 ACP, 38 Special, and those are cartridges that the Critical Duty don't come in. So it's just very interesting overall how they made this. So I'm going to test the 38 Plus P through my Taurus 605 with a 2-inch barrel, and the 45 ACP through my Shield 45 with a 3.3-inch barrel. You got to remember that the chamber is included in the measurement with the semi-auto. It is not with the revolver, so the actual overall size and the amount of travel that bullet has in those guns is going to be the same between the both of those. So we're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic gel test. So we're going to go into plain 10% clear ballistics to see what the best potential of those cartridges are. No fabric in the way that could potentially clog a hollow point, and see if we get some good expansion. Then we'll move on to doing more of a real world simulation where I'm going to have 4 layers of sweatshirt material on this first 3-inch piece. It represents hitting a pectoral muscle, followed by a 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard to represent hitting ribs or sternum. 16 more inches of clear ballistics, and another 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard at the back to represent hitting back ribs. Clear ballistics is roughly a half representation of the density of flesh. So 3 inches and 16 inches is more like 1.5 inches, and 8 inches in a real living target. So I'm hoping to keep these bullets within that back rib simulation in our real world simulation. And another note, these ballistic gel blocks are not cold. They're stored inside, so they're not more dense than typical. I get that a lot of times, people asking that when it's snowing out. And by the way, the most popular weather app in the country says it is not snowing right now. That's interesting. And then after our ballistic gel test, I'm going to shoot at the steel target to see what kind of practical accuracy and shootability I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up we have our 38 Special Plus P. This is rated at 900 feet per second. I think through a 4-inch barrel, so we'll get less than 900 out of this 2-inch barrel revolver likely. Well, let's see what we get here, see how close we get to 900 feet per second with our 38 Special Plus P. 785, 791, 807, 794, 778. Very accurate round there, but definitely way below that rated velocity. And no, it's not the temperature. It's like 17 degrees, wind chill 12 or something like that. The distance from here to the chronograph is only like 4.5 yards. The density of the air being fired out of warm guns is not going to change to some like super low velocity just because it's cool out. So 45 auto, 210 grain. This is rated at 980 feet per second, I believe, through a 5-inch barrel. So we got our 3.3-inch barrel. Let's see how close I get to 780 feet per second with our 45 ACP. 830, 846, 858, 815, 856. So honestly, not that bad of velocity overall out of a short barrel. It's about the same velocity as a typical 230 grain out of a 5-inch barrel, but a 210 grain out of a little subcompact. So that's pretty good velocity. Let's try our ballistics gel block and see how these compare. All right, first up, our shot into plain clear ballistics with our 38 Special Plus P. No fabric in the way that could potentially clog a hollow point and prevent expansion. No rib simulation that can slow down its potential for penetration. So let's see what we get here with our 38 Special Plus P. All right. Let's hit that with our 45 ACP. Let's go take a look. All right, so tremendous amount of rollback with that 45 ACP. I typically only see that when the bullets expand to over 6/500ths of an inch. I feel like they probably didn't expand that big, but that's typically when I see that like that. So pretty good energy dump overall with both of these. You know, a good amount of tearing in this first 3-inch piece. Not terrible. It's kind of a controlled expansion. That's how they make these things to go deep. They're supposed to go deep anyways. With our 38 Special, it looks like it didn't go that deep at all. Parallax will throw this number off a little bit, but what we're at here in reality is about, I'll give it 11 3/4. So we're just shy of hitting the 12-inch minimum we want to see. And it looks like we have partial expansion. With our 45, it looks like we got full expansion, and we went right to about 18.5 inches. So that did go deep. That did expand. So in plain gel, our 45 did a little better, but let's put in our rib simulation, put on our fabric, and see how these do in our real world simulation. All right, our real world simulation, 4 layers of sweatshirt material, followed by 3 inches of clear ballistics that represents hitting a pectoral muscle, followed by a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard that represents hitting ribs or sternum, 16 more inches of clear ballistics, and another 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard at the back to represent hitting back ribs. If we go through the back rib simulation and go 3 inches more, it could potentially indicate it could pass through an average size individual from a front on shot. So I do like to keep them within that back rib simulation if possible. So let's see what we get here with our 38 Special Plus P through our real world simulation. All right. Now let's hit that with our 45 ACP. Let's go take a look. All right here, so disappointed on one of these, but yet on the other one, this is one of the best performance I've seen out of a short barrel. So we'll take a look at our rib simulation here, and these both energy dumped huge. You know, it doesn't look like a whole lot there, but obviously these bullets were expanded right away to get that size of expansion. With our 38, it's not super consistent, but with our 45, it is a consistent hole through there. So that indicates that's going to expand out right away. And why that's important is that rounds that do that typically have a better quote unquote stopping power. It's like an incapacitation index type thing, where, you know, obviously if they're going to get really big after going through ribs, they're going to be a much larger size when they hit something vital. And that's going to stop a threat much faster than something that's, you know, a small diameter, not expanding right away. But with our 38, you know, I don't want to call it a fail, because with the front on shot, it would be enough penetration. We're only at about 10 3/4 with our 38. Now that would work with a front on shot to hit something vital, but it's just, you know, that 12-inch minimum really represents going through an arm from the side and still having enough penetration to hit something vital. This would not. Now our 45 absolutely would, and it got consistent expansion through our real world simulation. So we're looking at I'll give about 14 3/4 inches. So I'm very impressed with that 45. I can't recommend it yet because I've only tested it this one time, but yeah, I find it hard not to recommend it after seeing how well it did here out of a short barrel. Recoil wasn't excessive. It's about the right bullet weight. It seems really good overall. So let's pull these out of the block. We'll take a close-up look at these bullets. Then I'm going to shoot our steel target and see what kind of practical accuracy and shootability I get with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets going through play and gel, our 38 Special and our 45 ACP. So really just inconsistent performance with that 38 Special. The expansion is not consistent, just one side there. Now when we look at our 45 ACP, just a nice, consistent, overall expanded hollow point. That looks really good overall. And for being a standard pressure, that is great performance. Now going through our real world simulation, things didn't change all that much, which is good. You know, our 38 looks about the same. It's kind of a weird expansion. Our 45, I have to put a mark on there to indicate that it's the one through the real world simulation. Little black mark there. And that's saying a lot when I have to mark it to make sure I don't mix them up. That says a lot about the consistency of that round of ammo. And we look at the plain gel one here and the other one through our real world simulation. Just a great round of ammo overall. I'm going to be carrying this. That's good stuff. So that's a close-up look at those bullets. All right, 14 yards from the target, my practical shootability distance here. Typically, I like to just get a front sight picture and pop those rounds off as fast as I think I can hit the target. But a lot of times, I think that's not necessarily fair to the ammo because it really is dependent partially on my skill or lack thereof. So I'm going to try to slow this down a little bit, get a proper front and back sight picture, and try to hit the target as fast as I think I can, and see how these compare. So 38 Special plus P, 14 yards. All right, that shoots pretty good overall. Now our 45 ACP standard pressure. See how this does. That would do the job. Let me back it up from 40 yards and see how these do a little bit more slow fire. All right, 40 yards from the target, a little more distance here. So I'm going to slow fire these things and try to hit the target as many times as possible. So I can get here with our 38 Special plus P. So far, so good. All right, those things shoot really good. They feel consistent. They feel about right for shooting out of that particular revolver. So 45 ACP. See how this does. So that stuff shoots pretty good. A little bit lower point of impact, but that's okay. I was aiming center mass, so just a couple inches low there. Obviously, that one shot I missed would be me. And I'm going to say that because, when I've been doing this stuff for a long time, and there's just certain things that stand out about ammo. It's hard to even express it in so many words of what is it that I'm seeing. You just get this feeling about it just from this consistency that you're seeing from all the different things it can do. It seems to hit pretty accurately over the chronograph, be relatively consistent velocity. It seems to do the same thing in the gel with or without the real world simulation. It seems to shoot accurately on the steel. So all these things really point to the fact that that's really good ammo overall. Now, the 38 Special, I would carry it. Honestly, I would, because I know that I'm not law enforcement, and anytime I might need something like that, I can place the shots accurately from a front-on shot. It's a lot different when you're an officer trying to arrest somebody and they're running from you, and while they're running from you, they're doing this, and you don't have a choice. That's different than somebody like knife at you and straight, I'm a regular dude. I'm not trying to arrest somebody. So for me, I think the 38 Special is fine. I think it performed consistently as well. It just didn't penetrate that far. Now, the 45 of a short barrel, that is absolutely perfect. I saw nothing but great performance with that. In fact, I'm buying some more. When I say that, you can trust what I'm saying. If I'm going to buy some more, and probably use it for my personal carry ammo in this gun. I haven't been carrying it yet, but I'm looking for a good ammo. If I'm telling you I would buy it for my personal carry ammo, it's good ammo. So I'm just really impressed overall, especially with this 45 of a short barrel, because it's not easy to find a great 45 out of a short barrel. This one does really, really well. The 38 did okay, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for most people. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.